Good morning, everyone. I am very pleased to be presenting to you today to share with you learnings coming from Gears. Our presentation aims to disseminate the valuable insights gained from the analysis. It also aims to demonstrate how Gears can support and encourage firms of whatever size, industry, or level of advancement in adopting an evidence-based approach to comprehending their current workplace gender equality or WGE standing. What we aim to demonstrate is how Gears can highlight your company's strengths and areas for improvement, empowering your organizations to develop action plans that drive meaningful transformation. Gears was developed in 2019 and launched in 2020. Since then, it has been core to the services of the four business coalitions, enabling their clients to start their WGE journey. In the last 2 years, Gears has proven to be a robust and effective assessment tool trusted by over 94 Southeast Asian organizations, with over 20 more in the process of being assessed across the four countries, across 13 industries, and encompassing the participation of over 600,000 employees. This number includes the EDGE certification from the first phase of the Investing in Women program. With just Gears alone, the BCs have achieved an impressive 67 Gears assessment. Before we go any further, it is essential to acknowledge the stakeholders who contributed to the development of this tool. First, we have the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade of Australia, responsible for foreign policy, foreign relations, foreign aid, trade, and investment. They created the Investing in Women program in 2017. IW seeks to accelerate the women economic empowerment through increased and equitable opportunities in the private sector. Within the IW program, the Workplace Gender Equality Work Stream initiated the formation of business coalitions in the four countries. Collaborating with these four BCs, various WGE tools were co-developed to serve organizations within each country. Core to the services of the BCs is the WGE assessment. IW evaluated several WGE assessment tools available in the market and subsequently collaborated with the Workplace Gender Equality Agency, or WGEA, in Australia to adopt a diagnostic tool for use by BCs. To ensure the tool is tailored to the specific needs and maturity level of the Southeast Asian market, IW partnered with the BCs to develop a regional WGE assessment tool. This collaborative effort resulted in the creation of Gears. A significant portion of our presentation today will focus on the data gathered through the Gears assessment. Therefore, it is essential to start with a review of the sources of information utilized by the organizations during the Gears assessment process. On your screen, you can see the three sources of information. Let's start with strategies and policies. Displayed on the right-hand side are sample yes or no questions from the questionnaire, which is usually completed by an HR personnel well-versed in the company's policies and strategies across different organizational areas. These organizational areas are what's flashing on your screen. These exemplify the extensive scope of the areas examined by Gears to offer companies a thorough assessment of their WGE policies. Currently, there are 10 areas. However, the current Gears tool has been expanded to include 3 additional areas, namely LGBTQ+ components, reasonable accommodation, and supply chain practices. The LGBTQ+ component has been implemented in the Philippines, with several companies having already included it in their assessments. The other BCs will follow suit soon, coinciding with the inclusion of Area 13, supply chain. After the strategies and policies, let's move on now to the HR data. This is the second data source, which is HR statistics. Or for those who have undergone GEARS, this is collected using the four data tables, which is displayed on the left-hand side of your screen. GEARS collects 12-month disaggregated data on employee composition and career transition. The last data source is the Employee Perception Survey. These surveys are designed to measure employees' perception and experience of the company's WGE strategies. At the bottom part of the slide is a sample question from the survey. Firms are strongly encouraged to deploy the survey along with the other two data sources to obtain a comprehensive analysis of the effectiveness of their WGE strategies and practices. Having reviewed the three sources of information, we will now proceed to walk you through the actual data collected by GEARS, starting with the strategies and policies area. In the strategies and policies area, we will begin with a multi-country analysis. Following that, we will conduct a detailed examination of each country, starting with Myanmar, then Indonesia, and finally, the Philippines. Here are the strategies and policies score for all four countries across all the GEARS assessment. The way to read this slide, these are the organizational areas that GEARS investigate, which we already talked about in the earlier slides. Here are the scores of each area based on how advanced the practices and policies are of the organization. Based on the scoring, GEARS has assigned levels to assess the advancement of practices and policies within your firms. Now, these levels range from minimum standard to active to strategic, and the highest level is leading practice. If you're interested to learn more about the scoring system, please reach out to the BCs in your respective countries so they can provide you more information. So for all the country data, there are 6 areas that fall under the strategic level, and the rest are under active. Here are the top 3 organizational areas, which are all equally scored at 60. The top 2 being more focused on strong talent development policies. Firms in Southeast Asia prioritize talent development policies likely to attract and retain top talent in a competitive and rapidly changing business landscape. It is noteworthy that there is a high strategic alignment of business and WGE priorities in the 4 countries. Overall, strategic alignment of gender equality and business priorities is crucial for fostering a positive workplace culture, driving performance, attracting and retaining talent, and mitigating legal and reputational risks, ultimately contributing to long-term business success and sustainability. While a score of 60 is commendable, there are significant opportunities for further strengthening these areas. Now, shifting our focus on the bottom part of the list. These are the areas of opportunities for the 4 countries. Workplace gender equality training scored the lowest at 36, which is an active level. Now, this is not to say that firms from your countries are completely neglecting gender equality trainings. Some companies do recognize the importance of such activities, which may be one of the reasons of your involvement in the BCs. However, what we've observed is that these trainings are often not mandatory for employees. They lack emphasis on benefits beyond compliance and are typically conducted as one-off events rather than being fully integrated into regular employee training programs such as onboarding or leadership training. Another area of opportunity is gender pay equity, with many firms in the 4 countries failing to conduct periodic pay gap analysis. Limited transparency and accountability in pay practices, compounded by the absence of labor laws and regulations, create opportunities for unchecked discriminatory practices. To address this, companies need to prioritize fairness in their compensation practices. This includes conducting regular pay audits, implementing pay equity policies, providing training on unconscious bias, and fostering a culture of diversity and inclusion where all employees are valued and rewarded based on their skills, experience, and contributions, regardless of gender. This remains a key focus for investing in women as we collaborate with the BCs to establish mechanisms supporting companies interested in examining their pay equity policies. Moving on now to Myanmar. This is a complete view of their performance across 10 areas. Myanmar is the only country that has leadership and accountability as part of their top 3 areas and gears. This is important as gender equality starts with leadership. Leaders should demonstrate dedication to gender equality by setting clear diversity goals, fostering an inclusive environment, and taking responsibility for advancement. Myanmar scored well in gender composition in the workforce. Based on GEAR's data, Myanmar companies have developed good practices for tracking, monitoring, and analyzing employee movement and gender composition, which is a critical step in attaining a gender balanced composition at all levels in the organization. To illustrate how effective policies and strategies can maintain a balanced gender composition of the workforce, with the 30 age and gender assessed firms in Myanmar, the women composition on all levels are within the 40 to 60 optimal range of gender balance, which is very impressive, with only the board of directors level still an area of opportunity. Strategies to prevent and address gender-based harassment and discrimination, sexual harassment and bullying, and domestic violence is an area of opportunity for Myanmar firms. Based on BCGE's experience in working in this market, some firms have provisions in their code of conduct on anti-sexual harassment, but most don't have formal policies in place. Owing to the sensitivities around sexual harassment, anti-bullying, and non-discrimination, there's hesitation in revising existing policies or in developing new ones, such that it requires involvement of the board, hence could be a long process. And at times, it needs alignment with global business direction, leaving little room for refinement. BCGE recognizes that this is a critical area that companies need to examine. Therefore, they developed a WGE advisory package, which includes anti-harassment, anti-bullying, and non-discriminatory policy, EEO or Equal Employment Opportunity Policy, D&I policy, and flexible work arrangement policy. This policy package, which is prerequisite for BCGE membership, can be offered to companies that have not yet drafted a policy, as well as to companies that already have a policy in place and wish to improve it. Out of the 39 members, 23 have adopted a policy and received consulting regarding this package, accounting for 59% of BCGE's entire membership. And now we move on to Indonesia. This is Indonesia's overall performance across 10 areas. Their top organizational areas are highlighted on your screen. About half of the assessed companies in Indonesia are large firms belonging to the manufacturing sector and are conglomerates. Conglomerates in Indonesia generally have sound organizational policies for several reasons. First, they recognize the importance of adhering to local regulations and international standards to ensure compliance and mitigate risks. Second, they understand that having well-defined policies enhances operational efficiency, promotes their transparency, and fosters trust among stakeholders. The presence of strong organizational policies enables conglomerates in Indonesia to navigate complex business environments, adapt to changing market dynamics, and maintain a competitive edge in their respective industries. Shifting to the areas of opportunities, let me focus on preventing and addressing gender-based harassment. Indonesia's Ministry of Manpower updated the 2011 guidelines on sexual harassment in response to rising reports of sexual violence over the past 3 years. In May 2023, New guidelines were issued through Decree number 88 of 2023, mandating employers to establish a task force for preventing and addressing sexual violence in the workplace, among other requirements. Since the enactment of this law, IBCW has been trailblazing in supporting member firms to refine their existing provisions to ensure compliance to this new decree. As of date, they have 7 supported companies in this area. And finally, we move on to the Philippines. This is the Philippines' overall performance across the 10 areas. Conversely, the findings of the Philippines are slightly different. The area of preventing and addressing gender-based harassment is top scoring for the Philippine firms that have been assessed. Since its enactment in 1995, Republic Act 7877, the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, has led to the development of robust organizational policies in this area. Further reinforcement came with the passage of the Safe Spaces Act, or RA 11313. PBCW has provided 23 trainings to 9 companies, covering thousands of employees to help improve compliance and implementation of the long existing regulation. A notable discovery regarding the Philippines is that recruitment, selection, and promotion is an area of opportunity. However, when examining HR data, there is a significant 48% representation of females in recruitment and a robust 53% representation in promotions within organizations, which surpasses figures observed in the other countries. This indicates that in practice, the Philippines has already implemented effective strategies for gender equitable hiring and promotion. However, it is imperative for organizations to institutionalize these strategies and practices to ensure consistency in implementation. After going through the strategies and policies performance for each country and in aggregate, we now move on to the second source of information, which is HR statistics. Here we will discuss gender composition, recruitment, promotion, and retention, major occupations, and sub-major occupations. Let's start with gender composition. Let me walk you on how to read these slides. These lines are the gear's targets. For a board, there should be 30% share of either gender, while for the other levels of the organization, such as staff level, supervisory, mid, and senior level management, the optimum range is 40 to 60%, which is between those two lines. If it's a green bar, then it's meeting, especially if that green bar is within those 2 bar lines, while red is below. This graph illustrates a phenomenon commonly referred to as the leaking pipeline in gender studies and workforce analytics. It depicts the trend where the representation of women decreases as the level of responsibility or seniority within their organization increases. It may be that the representation of women is higher or equal to that of men. However, as women progresses up the organizational hierarchy, the promotion of women decreases significantly. This is often attributed to various factors, including systemic barriers, gender biases, lack of support for work-life balance, and limited to no access to mentorship and advancement opportunities. The leaking pipeline concept underscores the challenges women face in advancing their careers and highlights the need for organizational policies and cultural changes to address gender disparities and support women's career progression. Having 40% female share in both promotion and recruitment in the 4 countries signifies a positive shift towards gender equality and diversity within the workforce. This achievement suggests that organizations in the region are making concerted efforts to address gender disparities and promote inclusivity at various stages of the employee life cycle. The high female share in promotion indicates that women are being recognized and rewarded for their contributions, skills, and potential for leadership roles within the organization. Similarly, a significant female share in recruitment suggests that efforts are being made to attract and hire diverse talent, including women, at all levels of the organization. Ongoing efforts such as implementing gender inclusive policies, providing leadership development programs for women, and addressing unconscious biases are essential to further advance gender equality and create more inclusive workplaces in Southeast Asia. Moving on to retention rate. Although you will see mostly red bars, the graph illustrates that there is better retention for women in most levels, hitting the goal of 92% at the upper management level and having higher retention rate than men across all levels. This says that women are more likely to stay than men. Improved retention rates indicate that organizations are successfully creating environments where women feel valued, supported, and empowered to thrive in their careers. There could be several factors to this. First, organizations may have implemented policies and programs aimed at supporting work life balance, such as flexible work arrangements, parental leave, and childcare support, which enable women to effectively manage their personal and professional responsibilities. Additionally, initiatives focused on mentorship, career development, and leadership opportunities for women can enhance their sense of belonging and progression within the organization, reducing the likelihood of turnover. Overall, having better retention of women in the region is a significant achievement that reflects a positive shift towards gender equality and inclusivity in the workplace. However, it's equally important to consider the retention of male employees so companies can mitigate the high costs associated with turnover. Moving on to major occupations. This and the sub-major occupation, which you will see in the next slides, are unique to gears. To those of you who have undertaken gears, this is data table number 4. Absolutely, collecting data on gender occupational segregation is crucial for organizations to become aware of any harmful traditional gender norms embedded within your recruitment, selection, and promotion practices. By analyzing this data, organizations can identify patterns or biases that may be or that may perpetuate gender inequalities in the workplace. The major occupation chart reveals a concerning trend where women are predominantly concentrated in traditional female dominated roles such as clerical and administrative positions, while being underrepresented in occupations requiring physical labor such as agriculture, fishery, and machine operations. This phenomenon is called gender occupational segregation, which reflects deep rooted gender stereotypes and societal norms that perpetuate the segregation of the labor market based on gender. Women are often steered towards occupations that are perceived as more suitable or socially acceptable for them, while roles requiring physical labor or technical skills are typically associated with masculinity and male dominance. Going further down to the sub-major occupation, highlighting here the ideal range of 40 to 60% either gender for each occupation. And for the sub-major occupations, a similar trend is showing. There is overrepresentation of women in traditional care and administrative work, and the lack of representation of women in traditionally male-dominated industries. So what does this tell us? This occupational segregation not only limits women's career opportunities, but also perpetuates gender inequalities in terms of wages, career advancement, and access to resources. And what can be done? We need to break down occupational stereotypes and promote equal representation across all sectors. Addressing this imbalance requires concerted efforts to challenge gender norms, promote diversity and inclusion in all sectors. Organizations can investigate your recruitment process if there are any gender biased practices that you are overlooking. Moreover, creating supportive environments, providing access to training and education, and dismantling barriers to entry in non traditional fields are essential steps towards achieving gender equality in your organization. And again, Gears could help you look into these areas. So, how do we make sense of all this data when you're looking at an organizational level performance? Let me show you this dashboard. This is a client that also has strategies and policies data, the gender composition from the data tables, and the employee movement. This client has undergone gears twice, the first in 2022 and the second followed a year after. Now let me walk you through this slide. On top is the organizational area being assessed. The top bar is the first assessment, while the bottom bar is the second assessment. The vertical line is the GEARS benchmark or the average score of all companies and the four countries for that area. In the initial assessment, the client fell short of the GEARS benchmark in 7 areas, indicated by the red X's. Following this assessment, the client collaborated with the BCN country to devise action plans aimed at enhancing their strategies and policies. By the time of the second assessment, all 7 areas previously below the benchmark had surpassed it. Furthermore, the client's commitment to improvement extended beyond these 7 areas, as even the 3 initially performing well continued to show enhancement. Another aspect to look at for this company's performance is how this client has 7 areas that were below the strategic level during the first assessment. You can see below the gears level at the bottom of the screen to remind you of the levels. Following the implementation of interventions, the client managed to elevate 6 of these 7 areas to a strategic level by the second assessment, with some even achieving leading practice status. After the second assessment, the client now has only 1 area remaining below the strategic level, down from the initial 7. Now, looking at the other data sets, while the client exhibits a balanced representation of both genders at both the staff level and overall, it is evident that there is a leakage in the organizational pipeline as the proportion of women declines with increasing levels of responsibility. Additionally, there's notable absence of female representation on its board. In the employee movement data, while a good share of women are being recruited into management levels for this company, a marked improvement from their first to second assessment. However, that is not the same positive story when it comes to their promotion, where we see no women being promoted at the time of their second assessment. So let's bring it all together. Here's the single view of the client's dashboard. This indicates that while the client is making considerable efforts to enhance its strategies and policies regarding recruitment, selection, and promotion, this is not necessarily translating in improved numerical outcomes. Now, there could be several reasons for this. It is possible that the effects of policy changes have not yet been fully realized in terms of numerical outcomes, as such changes typically take time to materialize. Alternatively, it could be that while the policies are in place, there are opportunities to refine their implementation for better results. It remains challenging to pinpoint the exact reason for the discrepancy in numbers. This actual data from a client tells us that employee surveys can offer a comprehensive understanding of the effectiveness of your organization's actions concerning WGE. By leveraging the valuable insights provided by employees, organizations can gain an understanding of their perceptions and experiences. Furthermore, employee surveys serve as a tool for evaluating the effectiveness of policies, programs, and initiatives. This data-driven approach empowers companies to make informed decisions aimed at enhancing employee experience and increased retention rates. Aside from this kind of analysis, Gears data can play a crucial role in assisting organizations with their sustainability reporting efforts. This is particularly relevant for firms in Indonesia and soon for publicly listed companies in the Philippines, as gender indicators will become mandatory for reporting starting 2025. Later in the panel, we have a client who will speak to us about their experience in using Gears for their sustainability reporting. Finally, Gears can also be an effective tool to allow firms in starting the collection of disaggregated data to empower you in making more informed decisions, optimize your operations, and better serve your customers by providing detailed insights into various aspects of your business. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to present to you this morning our analysis and learnings from Gears. That concludes our presentation. We hope you found that useful and encouraging. Have a good morning, everyone.